Pulp Lit Productions presents H.P. Lovecraft, The Complete Fiction Omnibus Collection, The Early Years, 1908 to 1925. Written by Howard Phillips Lovecraft, edited and annotated by Finn J.D. John, narrated by Finn J.D. John. And now, H.P. Lovecraft, The Complete Fiction Omnibus Collection, The Early Years, 1908 to 1925. Foreword. Howard Phillips Lovecraft was born on August 10th, 1890, a product of the late Victorian era. In many ways, he remained a late Victorian man until his death in 1937. Along the way, he produced a body of weird fiction work that, sparse though it is, has had a tremendous influence on 20th and 21st century literature. That body of work is contained in this 3-volume omnibus edition. All of Lovecraft's prose fiction output published under his own name between 1917, when he first turned from the witty but opaque non-fiction and turgid Georgian poetry that he then favored, until his death from cancer in 1937, followed by a collection of all the weird fiction works which he ghost-wrote for others or collaborated on with them. Readers who are new to H.P. Lovecraft should start with the middle book in this collection, subtitled The Prime Years. That volume starts off in 1927, at the midpoint of Lovecraft's literary life, and contains all the most iconic stories he wrote, including The Call of Cthulhu and At the Mountains of Madness. The volume you are now reading, subtitled The Early Years, is filled with the works of Lovecraft's apprentice years. Some real gems are to be found here, but most seasoned Lovecraft fans will agree that his later writings, penned after he researched and wrote supernatural horror and literature, his master's thesis, are his best. It is important to note that with one or two exceptions, this collection includes only Lovecraft's prose fiction. It is not everything Lovecraft wrote, not even close. It excludes most of his juvenilia, his philosophical ruminations and scientific observations, his non-fiction writings, most of his poetry, and of course his letters. Taken together, these other works dwarf the weird fiction writings contained in this 3-volume collection. His letters alone total many times more than everything else he wrote put together. Estimates of his total production range from 30,000 to 100,000 letters sent to family members, friends, and fellow writers. Nor are these letters light reading. When courting his wife, Sonia Green, he regularly sent her letters in the 40 to 50-page range. Late in his life, when his circumstances were really straitened, he actually skipped meals to finance postage on these colossal missives. What follows are some brief biographical details about our author. It is by no means intended to replace a real detailed biography, but rather to help fit his stories together into a coherent canon, to aid the reader in getting familiar with the sequence and circumstances and context of each of Lovecraft's works as they are presented herein. You will also find a detailed timeline of Lovecraft's life in Appendix B at the very end of this volume. Biographical information is helpful in reading any author's work, but it's especially important with Lovecraft. This is for two reasons. First, because Lovecraft was a true autodidact who never stopped learning and reading and traveling in search of new ideas and better stories. His early work is noticeably different from, and most scholars agree technically inferior to, his later work. In 1919, Lovecraft was almost a recluse, and his work from that period reflects that lack of socialization. 15 years later, he was possibly the most well-traveled man in Rhode Island, with a nationwide network of friends and a growing reputation for his keenness of wit and generosity of spirit. In other words, The Street and The Color Out of Space were written by very different men, and it is well to know this before tucking into reading Lovecraft for the first time. The second reason a biographical background is useful is that throughout his career, each of the stories Lovecraft wrote built on his previous work and frequently picked up threads from other writers' work as well. Lovecraft's writings were created in the context both of his life and of a growing fictional universe to which his works make contributions and additions and references throughout his career. Being familiar with that context and with it that fictional universe adds a whole new dimension to the enjoyment of his work. And it's that familiarity that this collection seeks to make available to the casual reader and the experienced hardcore Lovecraft fan alike. Readers who are interested
Sample complete. Ready to continue?